At the prenatal exam, the doctor, ashen-faced, asked, "Who was your prior physician?" I replied, "My husband, since he's also an obstetrician." Immediately, the doctor went into a panic and said, "We need verification right now." Imagine carrying a life inside you, feeling that pure, overwhelming joy, only to discover your own body holds a terrifying secret. A secret put there by the very man who swore to love and protect you. What if the doctor delivering your baby was actually planning your demise? I was utterly speechless. My new doctor, a stranger, had just delivered a bombshell that shattered my entire world. It wasn't just any pregnancy. This was my first, and my husband, Jacob, an OB-GYN himself, had treated me like I was made of fragile glass. At first, I thought it was a blessing. He handled everything. My vitamins, my meal plan, even the AC temperature. I felt cherished, adored. But as I hit my 7th month, his care started feeling less like love and more like surveillance. He insisted on doing all my ultrasounds himself, in his private study, claiming it was for my privacy. "I don't want another man looking at you, honey," he'd purr, and foolishly I found it romantic. But then there was his mother, Carol. In public, she was the picture of a doting matriarch, but alone with me, she was chilling. She'd bring me strange-smelling herbal tonics daily, insisting they were for the baby's health. What truly haunted me, though, was the way she touched my belly. It wasn't the loving caress of a grandmother, it felt like an appraisal. One afternoon, her eyes fixed on my stomach with a cold, predatory focus, she murmured, "I wonder how much this grandson asset will be worth." "He's our most valuable asset." Asset, the word echoed in my mind. Not a blessing, not a gift, but property, like stocks or real estate. My unease grew into a suffocating dread. Jacob always brushed it off, saying my hormones were making me overly sensitive. But I knew I wasn't imagining it. Something was terribly wrong. I desperately needed a neutral opinion, someone else to confirm what my gut was screaming. With hands that literally shook, I booked an appointment at a clinic far across town. I used a fake name, paid in cash, and sought out Dr. Hayes, a maternal-fetal specialist I'd found on a desperate late-night forum search. I lied to Jacob, told him I was meeting old college friends. The guilt was a gnawing thing, but the fear was a monster. Dr. Hayes' clinic was nothing like Jacob's cold, sterile study. It was bright, clean, and the staff were genuinely kind. I actually started to relax. Dr. Hayes, a calm, professional woman, listened patiently as I babbled about wanting a second opinion for peace of mind and a 4D ultrasound for the baby album. She just smiled. "All right, let's take a look at that baby," she said softly. I lay back, the cool gel spreading over my belly. On the large screen, a black and white image shimmered into view. Then, the most beautiful sound, my baby's strong, rhythmic heartbeat, filling the room. "He's so active," I whispered, tears of pure relief welling in my eyes. He was healthy. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Dr. Hayes agreed. "Yes, Lucy, your baby is very healthy. A strong heart, a straight spine. Perfect." She moved the transducer, measuring his tiny head as femur. I closed my eyes, letting the moment wash over me. But then I opened them. Her smile was gone. Her face, usually so serene, was tight with concentration. She moved the transducer, not over my baby, but to a spot near my uterine wall, far away from him. Her expression turned serious, then grim. She pressed a few buttons, enlarging the image on her own monitor. Then, with a jarring swiftness, she turned off my screen. "What's wrong, doctor?" My heart started hammering against my ribs. "Is our baby okay?" "Your baby is fine," she replied, but her voice was strained, barely a whisper. She put down the transducer, turning to face me fully. The silence that followed was suffocating. "Who was the doctor who examined you previously?" she asked, her voice low, but now laced with something steel-hard. I was bewildered. "My husband, Dr. Jacob Reed. He's also an OB-GYN. And his mother, Carol, has been helping me a lot." Dr. Hayes just stared, her eyes fixed on her monitor as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She looked ghostly pale. Then, she slowly rose from her seat, her hands trembling ever so slightly. "Lucy," she said, her voice now urgent, almost panicked. I need to run some tests on you immediately. A full blood panel. And I'm scheduling an MRI for you as soon as possible. Panic seized me. Why, doctor? What is it? Is it cancer? A tumor? She shook her head fast. No, it's not that. I don't know exactly what it is. But this object I'm seeing, it shouldn't be there. It doesn't belong inside your uterus. What object, doctor? Please explain. I sat up, the cold ultrasound gel still on my belly, but a coldness far more intense was spreading through me. Dr. Hayes took a deep, shaky breath, clearly trying to compose herself for my sake. She turned the monitor back towards me. Your baby is healthy. Look here, she said, pointing to the image of my perfectly curled-up fetus. But here, she shifted the image, showing a spot right near my uterine wall. There it was, a small, dense, oddly shaped shadow. Precise in its form, like a tiny metallic capsule, completely alien against the soft biological tissues. What is that? I whispered, horror rising in my throat. That's the problem. I don't know, Dr. Hayes admitted, her voice frank. It's definitely not part of your anatomy, and it's not any medical device I'm familiar with. Not an IUD. Not an implant. It's a foreign body, Lucy. An artificial object. I stared at the shadow, utterly disbelieving. I've never had surgery. Nothing like that has ever been put inside me. That's what worries me, Dr. Hayes said, switching off the machine. Your husband, Jacob, is an OB-GYN. There's no way he would have missed this on his ultrasounds. It's quite obvious, if you know what to look for. If you know what to look for, the words hit me like a physical blow. It meant Jacob knew. His over-attentiveness, his insistence on doing every scan himself, his prohibition against other doctors, it wasn't to protect my privacy. It was to protect that object. I need a blood sample, Dr. Hayes said, now in full professional mode. We'll check for inflammatory markers, heavy metals, and we need that MRI. But we have to be very, very careful. She looked me dead in the eye. You must not, under any circumstances, mention this to your husband or your mother-in-law. But why? I stammered. Because if your husband knows about this and has been hiding it from you, Lucy, you could be in grave danger. I don't know what the purpose of this object is, but it was placed there deliberately. We have to assume a worst-case scenario. Dr. Hayes arranged my MRI at a different hospital under a fake name, disguised as a nutritional consult. She took my blood and sent me home. Act as if nothing happened, she warned. Watch your husband. Listen. Don't betray your fear. The drive home was a blur, a waking nightmare. Every little kick from my baby now felt like a terrifying reminder of the other invader inside me. The asset. Was this what Carol had meant? By the time I got home, it was evening. The house was unnervingly quiet. Jacob wasn't back, and Carol wasn't there. I took a quick shower, trying to wash away the sticky gel and the even stickier fear. I had to act normal. Jacob arrived late, looking tired. He kissed my forehead. How was the reunion? He asked. Good, honey. Lots of people, I managed, forcing a casual tone. He smiled, but his eyes remained cold. Don't wear yourself out. Remember, you're carrying precious cargo. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay with my back to Jacob, feigning slumber, acutely aware of his every breath, every tiny movement. Around 2 a.m., he must have thought I was deeply asleep. He slipped out of bed, silent as a ghost. I held my breath. He took his phone and left the room, closing the door with agonizing care. After a few heart-pounding seconds, I slid out of bed. I crept to the door and opened it a crack. Jacob hadn't gone far. He was standing outside his private study upstairs, the door ajar. I could hear his voice, a tense whisper. She went to see another doctor, Mom. My heart stopped. Yeah, just a cheap 4D ultrasound. She said she wanted to see the baby's face. He paused, listening. No, she doesn't suspect anything. She's too dumb to suspect. A cold dread coiled in my stomach. I knew exactly who he was talking to, Carol. I checked it last night while she was sleeping, he continued, a hint of irritation in his tone now. Don't worry. The object's position is still secure. The pregnancy hasn't shifted it. Everything is stable. Another agonizing pause. Yes, Mom. I'll extract it myself during the delivery. I'll make it all look like a normal complication, then we can take care of the rest." He let out a quiet, humorless laugh, a sound that chilled me to the bone. "Of course, I still have Richard Franklin's inheritance documents. Nothing has changed. It's all going according to your plan." I clamped my hand over my mouth, stifling a scream. The object, the delivery, Richard Franklin's inheritance documents. My father. It was all connected to my late father. My husband, Jacob, and his mother, Carol, were conspiring against me. And the key to everything was inside my uterus, right next to my unborn child. I crawled back into bed, my body ice cold despite the stuffy room. I pulled the covers up to my chin, my eyes fixed on that closed door. Behind it, in his study, my husband had just confirmed my darkest fears. He wasn't just a controlling spouse. He was a conspirator, a liar, a potential murderer, and he was working for his mother. Richard Franklin's inheritance documents. What did this have to do with my long-dead father? He'd been a successful businessman, but had lived modestly. I'd always believed my inheritance was just this house and funds for my education. Oh, how wrong I was. Terribly, horribly wrong. I forced myself to breathe evenly. He couldn't know I was awake. When Jacob returned 15 minutes later, he moved silently, like a predator. I felt the dip in the mattress as he lay down. His breath was calm, steady on the back of my neck. I was sleeping next to a monster, and the monster was sleeping soundly. The next morning was a fresh wave of terror. How could I pretend? How could I let Jacob touch me, give me those pills, smile at me? But I had to. My life, and my baby's life, depended on my performance. I smiled through breakfast, swallowed his vitamins, then quietly, furiously, threw them up in the bathroom. I had to get out. I needed answers. The only person who might know anything was my late mother's sister, Aunt Martha. She was a simple, shy woman who'd always kept her distance after my father died. I used to think it was because she was uncomfortable with our wealth. Now, I knew it was because she knew something dark. I waited for Jacob to leave for the hospital. "I have a surgery. Might be late," he said, kissing my forehead. I fought every urge to wipe his lips from my skin. The second his car was out of sight, I moved. I didn't dare take my own phone, terrified he was tracking me. I grabbed the car keys and sped to Aunt Martha's small house in the suburbs, a world away from my own cold, opulent home. Aunt Martha was stunned to see me, pregnant and disheveled, on her doorstep. "Lucy, my goodness." "What is it?" she gasped. "Auntie, I need to talk to you. It's critical." She led me inside, her hands trembling as she made tea. "You're as pale as a ghost. Jacob, has he hurt you?" she asked unexpectedly. "You never liked Jacob," I blurted, surprised. Aunt Martha looked away. "It's not that. It's just the way he looks at you. It's the way your father used to look at your mother." I was confused, but I had no time for riddles. "Auntie, I don't have much time. I need to know about my father and a woman named Carol." Her teacup rattled so violently it spilled. She set it down with a clatter, her face even paler than mine, eyes wide with terror. "Why are you saying that name?" she whispered. "You shouldn't. She's my mother-in-law. That's why I'm here, Auntie. Please. Carol is Jacob's mother. What do you know?" Aunt Martha let out a shaky sigh, then a low, repressed sob broke from her. "Stay away from that woman, Lucy. You have to get away from her." "I can't, Auntie. I live with them. She's my husband's mother. Please, just tell me." She took a deep, shuddering breath. "Carol is not a good person. Years ago, before your mother died, she was your father's personal assistant. Brilliant, capable, but utterly cunning. Your father trusted her immensely. What happened? She was obsessed, not with your father, but with his fortune. Richard was a good man, but paranoid. He hid his money everywhere. Didn't trust banks. Didn't trust anyone." Aunt Martha's voice dropped. "One night, your father found Carol in his study, trying to open his personal safe. Not the regular one, but the one with his secret asset ledgers. He was furious. He fired her on the spot." "Is that all?" I pressed impatiently. "No." Aunt Martha shuddered. "Carol didn't take it well. She threatened him. I was in the next room. I heard her screaming, 'You humiliate me, Richard. Your fortune should have been mine. One day I will get it. One way or another, I will take everything you have. Silence. Richard Franklin's inheritance documents. Carol had been planning this for decades. Auntie, I said softly, my father's inheritance. What do you know about it? Jacob and Carol keep mentioning it. Aunt Martha looked at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Your father was eccentric, Lucy. After your mother died, he became even more paranoid. He said he had to protect his legacy. He created a very strange will. Said his main inheritance, billions of dollars, couldn't be accessed without a special key. What key? Where is it? I don't know. He just said he hid it in the safest place in the world, inside his most cherished treasure. Something people would never steal because they wouldn't know it was there. My gaze dropped to my pregnant belly. My baby. Aunt Martha quickly shook her head. No, dear. Not his grandchild. This was long before you were married. Then, her eyes widened in dawning horror, as if a realization had just struck her. Lucy, when you were about 15, did your father take you to a private clinic overseas? In Geneva. He said it was for a minor medical procedure, some kind of new vaccine. The memory hit me like a physical blow. Switzerland. Full anesthesia. He said it was to strengthen my immune system. This object I'm seeing shouldn't be there. I swayed, dizzy. Oh my God, Auntie. The object, it's inside me. Aunt Martha let out a small, terrified cry. He implanted it in you. Your own father implanted the key inside his daughter. And Carol knew. I whispered, the pieces clicking into place. That's why she made Jacob become an OBGYN. To marry me. To get me pregnant. I grabbed her arm. What do I do? They're planning to cut it out of me when I give birth. Aunt Martha was panicking. You have to go to the police. And tell them what? That my husband is too attentive. That my father implanted something in my body. They'll think I'm crazy. I knew I needed more than a wild story. I needed proof. And I needed a powerful ally. Auntie, think. My father must have left other clues. Who was his lawyer? I don't know. He changed lawyers constantly. He trusted no one. Think again, Auntie. There must have been one. She closed her eyes tightly, concentrating. Wait, there was one. He mentioned him only once. Not a corporate lawyer. Young, a rookie back then. Your father said he was the only honest man he'd ever met. The only one not blinded by money. His name was Alexander Vance. Yes, Alexander Vance. Your father said only Vance could execute his secret will. Only he knew how it worked. Alexander Vance. I repeated, a flicker of hope amidst the despair. I have to find him. I left Aunt Martha's house, my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I had a name, Alexander Vance. But I also had a new, horrifying realization. The key was inside me. My own father had put it there, turning me into a walking safe deposit box, a target for anyone greedy enough to want his fortune. And now the wolf was already in her house. I had to get home before Jacob became suspicious. I had to act normal. But before I did, I stopped at a small convenience store and bought a cheap burner phone. I wasn't taking any chances. That night was the longest torture of my life. I had to smile at Jacob. I had to let Carol, who conveniently stopped by for dinner, stroke my belly. Such a healthy baby, Carol cooed with her sweet, venomous smile. We have to take good care of him. I wanted to throw up. I just nodded and smiled, my hands shaking behind my back. I knew I needed tangible proof. Jacob's whispered confession wasn't enough. Aunt Martha's story would be dismissed as hearsay. I needed something solid for Alexander Vance. And I knew exactly where to find it. Jacob's study, the one that was always locked. The opportunity came 2 days later. Jacob got an emergency call from the hospital, an urgency section. He left in a frantic rush. Mom will come stay with you, he said before he drove off. My heart sank. My window of opportunity was narrow, and now Carol was coming. The second Jacob's car was gone, I bolted for his study. The door, as always, was locked. But I'd noticed he didn't use a key. It was a keypad. I tried my birthday. Failed. Jacob's birthday. Failed. Our wedding anniversary. Failed. Panic seized me. I heard a car in the distance, Carol. Think, Lucy, think. One last desperate combination, something that disgusted me. My baby's due date. Click, The door opened. The pang of betrayal was profound. He had used our baby as a key. The room was cold, perfectly orderly. Behind a gloomy landscape painting, just as I'd suspected, was a safe. I pulled the painting aside. A digital safe. I tried the same code, the baby's due date. Beep, the safe swung open. Inside, there was no money, no jewelry. Just a stack of documents labeled Richard Franklin. And on top, a thick, black leather-bound journal. My hand shook as I pulled it out. It wasn't a normal journal. It was a medical log. I opened the first page. It was about me. In cold, clinical handwriting, Jacob had documented everything. First page. Access to subject. Lucy. Established successfully. Phase 1 complete. She shows interest as expected. Months later. Wedding performed. Full access to subject achieved. She is very pleased. But the most chilling pages were at the end, starting with my pregnancy. Pregnancy successfully induced after 3 attempts. Subject is unsuspecting. Location of object confirmed via handheld ultrasound. Stable, no displacement due to fetal growth. I flipped through the pages, breathless, my vision blurring. The most recent entry was just a few days ago. Extraction plan for D-Day. Proceed with emergency C-section following staged failed induction. Claim fetal distress, nuchal cord. Full general anesthesia will be used. This will provide sufficient time for object extraction after baby delivery. And then, a final sentence, in a different ink, as if added later. C suggests a malpractice accident with anesthesia overdose post-procedure. Cleanest way to eliminate future ownership complications. Subject does not need to survive once object is successfully retrieved. My knees gave out. I sank to the floor, gasping for air. An anesthesia accident. They were planning to kill me. This wasn't just theft. It was a cold-blooded murder plot, orchestrated by my husband and his mother. I photographed every single page of that journal with my burner phone, my heart pounding so hard my ears were ringing. I had to put everything back. As I was about to close the safe, my eyes caught something else. An old, yellowed envelope tucked beneath the pile. It was handwritten in a flowery script I recognized as Carol's, addressed to Jacob at an old dorm room address. I opened the letter, dated 20 years ago, when Jacob had just started medical school. My dearest Jacob, it began. I know it's expensive. Mom knows. But it will be worth it. That coward of a father of yours would never understand. But we know what we're fighting for. Richard Franklin's fortune should be ours. He humiliated me, fired me, treated me like dirt just because I wanted what was rightfully mine. Now listen to me closely. I've discovered his secret. That fool Richard has implanted the key to his fortune inside his own daughter. That stupid little girl, Lucy. It's fate, Jacob. You must become a doctor. Not a surgeon, not a pediatrician. You must become an obstetrician. It's the only way. You will make her fall in love with you. You will marry her, get her pregnant, and then you will bring home what is rightfully ours. Don't fail me, son. Don't be like your father. Do this for me. Do this for our future. All these sacrifices will be rewarded. I stared at the letter, horror washing over me. This wasn't a new plan. This was a script written by Carol decades ago. Jacob wasn't just a bad husband. He was a tool, sharpened for 20 years. By his mother, aimed directly at my heart. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a key in the front door. Asterisk click. Clack. Asterisk Carol had arrived. Sooner than Jacob had said. Panic surged through me. I scrambled, shoving the letter and journal back into the safe, slamming it shut, and replacing the painting. I raced out of the study, locking the door with the baby's due date code. I made it to the living room, breathless, just as Carol walked in, grocery bags in hand. Why, Lucy! Carol's sweet, venomous smile unfolded. Why are you panting so, dear? As if you've been running. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile onto my tight face, my hands shaking violently behind my back. Oh, nothing, Carol. Just a sudden craving for something sour. I was on my way to the kitchen. Why are you here so early? A knot formed in my throat, choking me. Carol stood in the doorway, her smile a kind porcelain mask. I brought you your favorite chicken soup, she said, holding up a grocery bag. Thank you, Carol, I replied, barely audible. I could feel her gaze stripping away my every move, searching for any flicker of anxiety. My hand, clutching the burner phone in the pocket of my sweatpants, was damp with sweat. I had to act normal. Time was running out. Jacob's journal and Carol's letter were proof of a perfect crime. But that proof would be useless if I ended up dead on an operating table. I had to get out of this house. But how? Carol now shadowed me like a ghost, sleeping in the guest room next door under the pretense of helping, watching every bite of food that entered my mouth. I knew I couldn't just run. They would catch me. I needed a plan, a distraction, an outside ally. My mind flew to Dr. Hayes. I had that MRI appointment she'd scheduled. It was my only legitimate reason to leave the house without Jacob. But the appointment was 3 days away. I wasn't sure I had that much time. That night, after Carol had finally fallen asleep in the next room, I slipped into the bathroom. I locked the door, turned the faucet on full blast to drown out any sound, and sat on the cold tile floor. I pulled out my burner phone. The reception was terrible, but I managed to send a single, desperate text to Dr. Hayes. He knows. His mother, too. They won't let me go. They plan to kill me during delivery. I need to get out now. The reply came 5 agonizing minutes later. Stay calm, Lucy. Do not panic. Move your MRI appointment up to tomorrow morning. Tell your husband it's a recommendation from your previous doctor for a pelvic check. Come to the address I'm sending you. Do not go back home. I will have a team ready. We have to make this look medically legitimate. A new address appeared on the screen. Not the main hospital, but a discreet, private clinic. I deleted the messages. One problem, temporarily solved. Now Alexander Vance. I had his name, but no number, no way to contact him without Jacob or Carol intercepting. But then I remembered my father's real study in the dusty guest house out back. A place neither Jacob nor Carol ever went, probably thinking it was filled with old junk. But I knew my father kept everything. In the pre-dawn hours, long before either of them stirred, I crept to the guest house. The room smelled of dust, old paper and wood. On towering shelves, amidst thick business ledgers, I found it, a heavy, leather-bound address book. With trembling hands, I opened it. Under V, there it was, Vance Alexander. Vance and Associates Law Firm. Office number and a personal number. I photographed both with my burner phone. Suddenly, footsteps in the hall. My heart leaped into my throat. Lucy, honey. It was Jacob's voice. What are you doing in here at this hour? It's so dusty. Not good for the baby. I quickly hid the phone behind my back. I was just missing Dad, I whispered, using the truth as a lie. I just suddenly wanted to see his things. He studied me for a moment, his clinical gaze assessing, probing. Then, the fake smile I knew so well spread across his face. Come back to bed. You need your rest. You have that MRI tomorrow, right? You told me last night. I froze. MRI tomorrow. Oh, yes, honey. For a pelvic check. My old doctor said it was important. Of course, Jacob said. Good idea. Mom will take you. I have a major surgery tomorrow. Can't cancel. My blood ran cold. Carol would take me. This was a disaster. My escape plan shattering. I couldn't get away with her shadowing my every move. But I just nodded. Okay, honey. That's fine. I would have to adapt. Tomorrow would be the day of my escape, one way or another. The next morning, I got ready, my mind racing at top speed. Carol was already waiting in the car. I went to the bathroom one last time, pulled out my phone. One shot. I sent a text to Alexander Vance's personal number. I am Lucy Franklin, Richard Franklin's daughter. My life is in danger. My husband Jacob and his mother Carol are trying to kill me for my father's inheritance. I have proof. I'm on my way to the Furcher Clinic on Rosewood Street now. Please, I have nowhere else to go. Track this phone. I sent it, then turned the phone off and hid it inside my shoe. The drive to the clinic was excruciating. Carol chattered happily about having a grandchild soon. I just nodded along, my heart pounding so loud I was afraid she could hear it. We arrived. The clinic was small, discreet, nothing like a major hospital. Carol eyed the building suspiciously. Why here? Why not a major hospital? It's a specialty clinic for pregnancy MRIs, Carol. It's safer. I repeated the excuse Dr. Hayes had given me. I went inside. A nurse greeted me. "Lucy, please come change. Her mother-in-law can wait here." "I'll go with her," Carol said sharply. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the nurse said firmly. "Strict rules. No companions in the changing rooms or the MRI suite due to radiation." Carol looked furious, but even she couldn't argue with medical protocol. She sat in the waiting room, her eyes fixed on the door I'd disappeared through. I entered the changing room. Dr. Hayes was already there. "You made it," she whispered. "She's out there. She won't let me go." I panicked. "You're not going out the front door." Dr. Hayes pointed to another door behind a locker. "That's the staff exit. There's a car waiting. Now give me your phone." "I left it at home," I replied, thinking of the burner phone in my shoe. "Good. Now hurry. We only have about 15 minutes before she starts getting suspicious." Just as I was about to move, the clinic's fire alarm blared. Light smoke began to fill the hallways. Panicked shouts erupted from the waiting room. The changing room door burst open. It wasn't Dr. Hayes. It was Carol, her eyes burning with pure, unadulterated rage. "Where do you think you're going, you little traitor?" Carol snarled. She must have pulled the alarm herself. Dr. Hayes tried to intervene. "Ma'am, what are you doing? This is a hospital." Carol shoved Dr. Hayes against a wall. "Shut up. This is a family matter." She grabbed my arm, her grip like iron. "You think you're so clever? You'll never escape me. Jacob is waiting out back. We knew you'd try something." My blood ran cold. This was all a trap. Jacob hadn't had surgery. They knew. They'd set me up. "We're going to do that operation right now," Carol hissed, dragging me down a back hallway. I fought back. "Let go of me. Please. They're trying to kill me." I screamed at the top of my lungs. We reached the back exit. There was no ambulance, just a black van, and Jacob standing beside it, his face cold and expressionless. He was holding something, a chloroform rag. "I told you she wouldn't come quietly," Jacob said to his mother. They both grabbed me. I struggled, kicked, bit, but my strength was failing. Jacob started to bring the cloth towards my face. "Stop right there." A calm, commanding voice sliced through the mayhem. Jacob and Carol froze. At the end of the alley, a man in an impeccable suit stood, completely composed. And he wasn't alone. Behind him stood 2 uniformed police officers. "Who are you?" Jacob shouted, his grip still on me. "I'm Alexander Vance," the man stated, his voice resonating with authority. "Attorney for the late Richard Franklin. And I represent my client, her." He pointed directly at me. "She has just informed me that you two are attempting to kidnap her." Carol scoffed. "Nonsense. This girl is my son's wife. She's hysterical. Probably ill." "She might be," Alexander conceded, his gaze unwavering. "But her illness had the good fortune to send me a complete copy of this medical journal." He held up his phone, displaying the photos I'd sent him of Jacob's chilling entries. "And also a copy of the murder plot letter you wrote 20 years ago, Mrs. Reed." The color drained from both Jacob's and Carol's faces, leaving them ghostly pale. "We received Miss Franklin's call," Alexander continued, his voice now colder than ice. "And we tracked the phone. But we also received an emergency package from Dr. Hayes with all the medical evidence, including the MRI results of the object in my client's uterus." Dr. Hayes stepped out from behind one of the officers, her face tense, but radiating quiet determination. "Jacob," Alexander said, his voice cutting through the silence. "As a doctor, you know what medical malpractice is. But as a conspirator, you just made a fatal error. You wrote it all down." The 2 police officers moved forward. "Jacob Reed, Carol Reed, you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to kidnap, and conspiracy to commit fraud." Jacob instantly let go of me. He knew. It was over. But Carol? Not a chance. With an animalistic scream, she lunged at me, no longer caring about the baby or the key. "If I can't have it, neither can you." But it was too late. The police already had her restrained. Jacob stood still, defeated, his arrogance crumbling. I swayed, my legs giving out. Alexander caught me, his hand gentle but firm. "Lucy," he said softly. "I'm Alexander Vance. your father's lawyer. You're safe now. I looked at him, then at Dr. Hayes. My allies. They had come. I had made it. And at that exact moment, a sharp, searing pain ripped through my abdomen. It wasn't Carol's grip. This was different. I looked at Dr. Hayes, my eyes wide with terror. Doctor, I gasped. I think my water just broke. I clutched my belly, a sharp, undeniable pain tearing through me. Amniotic fluid soaked my legs, creating a dark pool on the grimy alley floor. My baby was coming. Now. In the middle of this chaos, with my husband being arrested and handcuffed, Carol saw the fluid at my feet. Her hate-filled eyes, moments ago fixed on me, suddenly transformed into a terrifying focus on my belly. "The baby!" she shrieked, struggling with inhuman strength against the officer. "The key is being born. Jacob, get the baby. Get the key." Jacob, in stark contrast, was paralyzed. His face was ashen, not from the arrest, but from the sight of Alexander, the phone with his journal entries. As an expert manipulator, he knew when the game was truly up. The cold calculation in his eyes showed he'd already abandoned the plan and was now calculating his sentence. But Carol? For her, it wasn't over. "Coward!" she spat at her son. "After everything I sacrificed, get him. That's enough." Alexander's calm voice cut through the air. "Officers, get them in the car. Get them out of this area." The second officer helped his partner, dragging a still screaming Carol and a deathly quiet Jacob away. As they passed me, Carol glared with pure, unadulterated hatred. "This isn't over, Lucy. You'll never enjoy that inheritance. I'll rot in jail, but I'll make sure you suffer." Jacob said nothing. He just looked at me with no remorse, only a cold, hollow void that was somehow far more terrifying than his mother's rage. "Lucy!" Dr. Hayes's voice snapped me back to reality. She was already kneeling in front of me, ignoring the fading chaos, her professionalism taking over. "Lucy, listen to me. You're in shock, and you're in labor. The contractions are coming too fast. It hurts," I moaned, leaning heavily on Alexander. The extreme stress brought it on. "We can't deliver here," Dr. Hayes said, looking around her small clinic. "And we can't go back in there. It's not sterile, not equipped for this." She looked at Alexander. "We need to get her to a major hospital, now." Alexander nodded. "I'll call an ambulance. No time." Dr. Hayes cut him off. "Look at the interval of her contractions. 2 minutes. This is going to be fast. Use that police car they took them in. Tell them to put the sirens on." Alexander thought quickly. "Too risky. We don't know if they have anyone else out here. We'll use my car. It's armored. A relic from your father," he said to me with a small, grim smile. He really was paranoid. Everything moved at lightning speed. Alexander carefully lifted me, and I cried out as another contraction hit. Dr. Hayes grabbed an emergency bag from her clinic. They bundled me into the back seat of a heavy, black luxury sedan. Dr. Hayes got in beside me as Alexander took the wheel. "Where to?" Alexander asked. "Metropolitan General. My team is on standby there." I told them it was a very important person emergency. The car sped off, weaving through traffic. For me, the ride was a blur of excruciating pain and raw fear. Every bump felt like a knife. "I'm scared, doctor," I sobbed, gripping Dr. Hayes's hand. "What if that key, that object, hurts the baby when it comes out?" Dr. Hayes took my face in her hands, forcing me to meet her eyes. "Lucy, listen to me. You have been through hell. You have defeated 2 monsters. Now comes the hardest part. But you are not alone. Focus on your breathing. Focus on your baby. I will worry about that damned object. Understood? Your only job right now is to deliver this baby. Leave the rest to me." Her firm, grounding words cut through my panic. I nodded, closed my eyes, and focused. They pulled up to the hospital's emergency entrance. A team of nurses and a gurney were waiting. It was a smooth, professional operation, the polar opposite of the chaos at the clinic. I was rushed immediately to a prepared private delivery suite. Alexander stood outside the door, coordinating with hospital security. No one was getting onto that floor without his authorization. I was hooked up to monitors. My baby's heart rate was strong, but my contractions were incredibly intense. Dr. Hayes examined me, Lucy, you're fully dilated. Your body knows what to do. It's time to start pushing. I looked at Dr. Hayes. I was safe from Jacob, safe from Carol. Now, I had to face the final challenge my father had placed in my womb decades ago. Push, Lucy. Push. Dr. Hayes' voice was my only anchor in a sea of pain. I pushed with every ounce of strength I had left, my body arching on the bed. The delivery room was a hive of focused activity. A nurse wiped sweat from my brow. Another monitored the fetal heart rate. I can't do it anymore. I whispered, breathless. Yes, you can. I can see the head. One more time, Lucy. Push with all your might. I took a deep breath, ignoring the burning pain and immense pressure, and pushed with a soul-tearing scream. And suddenly, all that pressure was gone, replaced by the sound of a loud, powerful cry full of life. He's here, a nurse exclaimed. I collapsed back, spent. Tears of pure relief streamed down my cheeks. I had done it. My baby was safe. A healthy boy. He's perfect. I cried silently, watching the medical team clean my son, the reason I had fought so hard. He was healthy. But Dr. Hayes wasn't finished. Her face grew serious again. She looked at me. Lucy, the baby is safe. Now let's finish this. Don't move. The placenta will deliver soon, and I need to check on that object. I was too exhausted to speak. I just nodded. Dr. Hayes worked quickly. After the placenta delivered, she performed a manual examination with extreme care, using a portable ultrasound probe to locate the object. Okay, good, she muttered. It hasn't shifted. It's far from the placenta implantation site. Your father knew what he was doing. The object, she explained, wasn't in the uterine cavity, but implanted within the myometrium, the muscle of the uterus. Do I need surgery? I asked weakly. Not necessarily, Dr. Hayes said. I can get it out, but not now. You've just given birth. Your body needs to recover. Trying to remove it now would be too risky for hemorrhage. I felt a pang of disappointment. So, it was still inside me for now. But it's inert, Dr. Hayes assured me. It poses no danger to you. Suddenly, the doctor paused. She looked at the ultrasound screen again. Wait, that's odd. What? I said, alarm seizing me anew. It looks like there's a small light inside the object. It's blinking very faintly. Dr. Hayes zoomed in on the image. My God, the object is activating. Your baby's birth. Your baby's DNA must have triggered it. Just then, the delivery room door opened. Alexander walked in, flanked by 2 hospital security guards. He looked urgent. Lucy, doctor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just received a call from the Swiss Central Bank. Alexander looked both confused and tense. What? Richard Franklin's will just execute it automatically. His entire fortune, billions of dollars, has just been transferred into a new account in the name of Lucy Franklin and her descendants. It happened exactly 3 minutes ago, sir. Alexander looked at his watch. Dr. Hayes looked at Alexander, then at me, then at the ultrasound screen. Exactly when my baby was born. The birth was the key. A biometric key. I looked at my son, now cleaned and wrapped in a blanket, being brought over by a nurse. He wasn't just my baby. He was my liberator. The nurse placed him on my chest. I held him tight. Hello, little one, I whispered, tears blurring my vision. Alexander came closer, a genuine smile finally breaking through his serious demeanor. Congratulations, Lucy. You did it. You're a wealthy woman, and you have a healthy son. But what about Jacob and Carol? I asked, my voice raw. They are being taken care of. They won't see the light of day for a very, very long time, Alexander promised. There's still one problem, Dr. Hayes said, packing away her equipment. That key, that object, is still inside Lucy, and it's active now. We don't know what other functions it has besides triggering the transfer. Alexander stared at the blinking capsule on the ultrasound screen. I think I do, he said quietly. Your father, Richard Franklin, wasn't just paranoid. He was a vengeful genius. What do you mean? I asked. Alexander looked at me seriously. Lucy, I don't think that object just opened an account. I think it's been recording. For years. Recording what? Everything, Alexander said. Every conversation, every threat, every whisper. Richard Franklin, didn't just give you an inheritance. He gave you a weapon. And we just turned it on. The procedure to remove the object took place 2 days after I gave birth. It wasn't major surgery, but it required immense precision. Dr. Hayes, ever the professional, even enlisted a thoracic surgeon accustomed to delicate foreign body removal. I was under light sedation, while Alexander waited outside with a court order, ready to take possession of the object as evidence. The procedure was a success. When Dr. Hayes emerged from the operating room, she held a small, sterile vial. Inside, a metallic capsule, the size of a grain of rice but slightly thicker. It was dull-colored, but on its surface, a tiny blue LED light blinked, still active. "Here it is," Dr. Hayes said, handing it to Alexander. "The relic of Richard Franklin. That crazy genius. Lucy's fine. She's in recovery now. This is your department." Alexander took it with a mixture of dread and awe. He immediately took it to the best digital forensics team in the country. What they found surpassed his wildest imaginings. The object was a biometrically powered audio recording device designed to be permanently active, drawing power from body heat and micro-nerve impulses. And just as Alexander had suspected, it had been recording for 15 years, since the day it was implanted in my 15-year-old body. The audio data was terabytes large, most of it the trivial sounds of my daily life. Teachers lecturing, chats with friends, movie soundtracks. But Alexander and his team focused on the recordings from the day I met Jacob. And there, they struck gold. The trial of Jacob and Carol was front-page news. At first, their lawyers, paid with the remnants of Jacob's family money, were arrogant. They argued I was an emotionally unstable wife, suffering from postpartum paranoia. They claimed Jacob's medical journal was just a record of fantasies, a misinterpreted research draft. Carol's letter, they asserted, was the emotional outburst of a misunderstood mother from decades ago, utterly irrelevant. They painted Jacob as a devoted doctor, Carol as a doting grandmother. I sat in the courtroom, my infant son Matthew held close in my arms. I was calm, strangely. Beside me sat Dr. Hayes and my Aunt Martha, their presence a silent strength. Alexander stood with the prosecutor. "Your Honor," Jacob's lawyer declared, "the prosecution has not presented a single piece of tangible evidence that my client ever intended to harm his wife, only conjecture and illegally obtained private writings." The prosecutor smiled, a small, chilling curve of his lips. "Your Honor, we would like to present one final piece of evidence. Exhibit A." Alexander stepped forward, handing the court clerk a drive containing the data. "This evidence," the prosecutor announced, "was recovered from the victim's own uterus." A gasp, audible and collective, rippled through the courtroom. Jacob's lawyer jumped to his feet. "Objection! This is an absurd, theatrical tactic." "Objection overruled," the judge stated, her voice firm. "I've reviewed this forensic report. Proceed." The first audio recording played. It was my voice and Jacob's, happily discussing nursery rugs just 3 months prior. It sounded as clear as if we were in the room. Jacob's lawyer visibly swallowed. The clarity of the recording was eerie. "And now," the prosecutor continued, his voice ringing through the silent room, "we will play a recording from October 14th at 2 a.m., recorded in the study of the defendant's home." Jacob's voice whispered but clear. "Asterisk, she went to see another doctor, Mom. Yeah, just a cheap 4D ultrasound. She's too dumb to suspect. The object's position is still secure. Yes, Mom. I'll extract it myself during the delivery. I still have Richard Franklin's inheritance documents. It's all going according to your plan." Asterisk Jacob, in the defendant's box, stared at the floor, his face ashen. Beside him, Carol began to tremble, not with fear, but with pure, simmering rage. "And now," the prosecutor pressed, a conversation between the two defendants recorded in their living room 2 days later. Carol's voice, cold and calculating. "Asterisk, you need to be firm, Jacob. This pregnancy is making you soft. Don't forget the goal." Asterisk Jacob's voice. Asterisk, I'm not getting soft, Mom. I'm just being careful. Asterisk Carol's voice. Asterisk caution doesn't get you billions. The anesthesia accident plan is the best, cleanest way to eliminate future ownership complications. She doesn't need to live long after we have the key. Asterisk, a collective gasp went through the room. A juror covered her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Carol glared at me, her eyes on fire. And one more, the prosecutor boomed, his voice echoing. A recording from 20 years ago, from when the defendant Jacob, as a college friend, visited Miss Franklin's home, while the defendant Carol, posing as a catering consultant at the time, spoke with him at the door. A younger Carol's voice hissing. Asterisk, look at that girl, Jacob. Lucy. Her father has implanted the key inside her. I know it. You must become an obstetrician. You will make her fall in love with you. You will bring home what is rightfully ours. Don't fail me. Asterisk, it was the smoking gun. Decades of conspiracy, murder plots, malicious intent, all recorded, thanks to the paranoid genius of Richard Franklin. Jacob's lawyer sat down, nothing left to say. There was nothing to say. The judge read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, medical forgery, and kidnapping. As the judge sentenced them to life in prison without the possibility of parole, Carol exploded. You think you've won? She screamed at me, struggling against the guards. You just got lucky, you stupid girl. You're just like your father. We'll get out. We'll get out, Jacob. Jacob, in contrast, didn't move. He just looked at me, his eyes filled with a hollow horror, the look of a trapped sociopath. His only regret was that he had failed. I met his gaze without fear. I hugged Matthew tighter. I had faced my monsters, and I had won. Legal justice was served. Now, it was time for emotional justice. A year passed. My life was utterly transformed. I moved out of that house, a place filled with too many grim memories, into a bright, modern estate by a shimmering lake, all glass and sunlight. The walls were adorned with photos of my son, Matthew, now a healthy, happy toddler. Aunt Martha lived with us, her face no longer etched with fear, but radiant with genuine happiness as she helped care for Matthew. My father's fortune didn't just sit in a bank. With Alexander's unwavering guidance, I turned my personal tragedy into a profound purpose. We established the Lucy Franklin Foundation. It was no ordinary charity. It had two main branches. The first, run by Dr. Hayes herself, was the medical wing. It provided free legal and medical services to women trapped in situations of medical negligence or abuse, especially by their spouses or family members. Dr. Hayes' clinic became a state-of-the-art facility, training other doctors to recognize the subtle, insidious signs of covert abuse. The second branch, managed by Alexander, was the legal wing. It managed my entire estate and aggressively funded litigation against predators like Jacob and Carol, the con artist disguised as love. I became the face of the foundation. No longer a timid victim, I was a strong, vocal philanthropist, my voice quiet but firm, an advocate for those who couldn't speak for themselves. One day, I asked Alexander to arrange something, a visit to a maximum security prison. Are you sure, Lucy? Alexander asked, his voice gentle. You don't have to do this. I know, I replied, a steely resolve in my voice. It's not for them. It's for me. The final chapter. Alexander and I sat in a sterile visitation room, separated by thick glass. Two figures in dull orange jumpsuits were led in on the other side. Time had not been kind to Carol and Jacob. They had aged drastically. Carol, once so elegant, now had stringy, unkempt hair, her eyes filled with an ingrained, burning hatred. Jacob looked even worse. He was gone. His gaze was empty, the vestiges of his charisma long gone, leaving him a miserable shell. Prison sources said they hated each other, blaming one another for their failure at every moment. Jacob didn't even look up, but Carol glared at me. I picked up the intercom phone. Hello, Carol. Hello, Jacob. Carol sneered. Have you come to gloat? To enjoy your father's dirty money? I smiled faintly. I signaled to Alexander. He picked up the intercom next to me. Good morning, he began, his voice calm and professional. I just wanted to inform you both that the civil litigation has concluded. All of your personal assets, Carol's house, Jacob's savings accounts, his physician's pension, even the furniture from your old home, have been seized as damages. Carol's face hardened. However, Alexander continued, a subtle shift in his tone, my client, Miss Franklin, is very generous. Carol's eyes flickered slightly, a foolish hope that I would show mercy. Mrs. Franklin has instructed me to transfer all of your seized assets to the newest branch of the Lucy Franklin Foundation. We're calling it the Carol and Jacob Fund for Victims of Medical Fraud. Your money will be used to help the very people you nearly destroyed. It was the final, devastating blow. Perfect karma. Jacob finally looked up, his eyes showing a flicker of pure horror. Carol slammed her fist on the glass. "You devil bitch!" she screamed, her voice cracking. I finally picked up my own intercom. My quiet voice cut through Carol's frantic screams. "You were right about one thing, Carol. I have my most valuable asset." I pulled a photo of a smiling Matthew from my purse and held it against the glass. "This is something you can never touch." I looked at Jacob, who was staring at the photo as if hypnotized. "And you, Jacob," I said softly, my voice filled with a quiet strength. "You were a doctor. You took an oath to do no harm. You lost everything, not because of my father, but because you forgot your own oath. You failed as a doctor. You failed as a husband. And you failed as a human being." I stood up. I looked at Carol one last time. "You wanted my family's legacy. Well, now you have nothing." Alexander and I turned. We didn't look back. We walked out of that grim visiting room as Carol continued to pound on the glass, and Jacob finally lowered his head, beginning to quietly cry. Outside, the sun was bright, warm on my face. I took a deep breath of the fresh air. I was free. I was strong. I was safe. I got into my car. In the back seat, Matthew was sleeping soundly in his car seat, Aunt Martha smiling peacefully as she watched over him. I smiled back. This story was over, and my new life, it was just beginning. This journey was one of unimaginable betrayal and, ultimately, incredible strength. I want to know, what would you have done if you discovered such a chilling secret inside your own body? Share your thoughts in the comments below.